There are some people that make money as you make money, like your business partner, and then there are some people that make money as you go broke, like your bank. See, the problem is most of us don't grow up with any sort of financial education or any sort of financial mentors, but everybody goes to store their money in their bank. So when people have a question about money or their finances, where do they go? Well, they go to their bank. But what you have to remember is your bank makes money when you spend money. Actually, your bank makes money when you spend money you don't have. If you ever want to become rich, you got to stop going to the bank for financial advice. So let's diagram this out. This is you right here. This is the bank. For our male followers, I drew a mustache, or as we like to call it in Punjabi, a much. And for our female followers, I drew a braid, or as we call it in Punjabi, a gut. When you go to the bank to store your money, your bank wants to sell you certain services. Now, sometimes they sell you investment services, but for the average person, what are they selling you? They're selling you spending services. They're selling you credit cards, they're selling you auto debt, they're selling you home equity lines of credit, and they're selling you all different types of credit and debt. And what that means now is the bank gets to make money when you spend money. But when you're spending this money, you're spending money you don't have. Because what is debt? Debt means you are spending tomorrow's income today. Debt gives you the ability to spend your future income, and the price for you to spend your future income today is interest. So now when you go into the bank to borrow money, and whether it's through a credit card, whether it's the home equity line of credit, whether it's through auto financing, you're borrowing money that we can take tomorrow's income and then spend it today. And what does the average person use this money for? They use this money to buy a car, which is losing value, use this money to buy clothes, which are losing value, use this money to buy a vacation, which doesn't give you any financial value. Maybe it gives you a nice vacation, but it doesn't put any money in your bank account. And so the average person is going to the bank to borrow money, that way they can spend tomorrow's income, that way they can now pay interest on something that's losing value. And this is where now you got to understand that you can live a life without debt. And this is where I want you to understand that you don't have to keep doing what everybody else does. In today's society, in today's economy, in today's country, in America, guess what? It's completely normal to have credit card debt. It's completely normal to finance your car. It's completely normal to have student loans. It's completely normal to be drowning in debt and just talk about that because misery loves company, and that's what everybody does. Every single person is in debt, and it's normal. It's normal to be broke. It's normal to be drowning in debt. But it doesn't have to be that way. You can be financially free. And that means you can't keep living the same way everybody else is by relying on their bank. And that means now you have to work to pay down these consumer debts. It is okay to pay off the credit card debt. It is okay to pay off those student loans. It is okay to pay off the car. It is okay to pay off your home. And it's okay to make financial sacrifices to do this. Because I think everybody understands, yeah, it would be nice to not have any debt. But in order to do that, you got to make sacrifices to not have that debt. And that's the part that a lot of people make you kind of feel bad about, that, oh, you want to make financial sacrifices? You want to stop living this large and lavish life? Oh, you want to work harder at your job? Is something wrong with you? Why do you want to do that? Why do you want to make your boss rich? But you got to remember, the reason why you're doing these things, the reason why you're making these financial sacrifices is so you have the money to get out of this debt slavery of just constantly paying all your money to the bank. And if you want to become rich, the first thing you got to do is stop giving your money all to the bank. And when you do that now, you have more money for yourself. And this is where a lot of people like to say, well, Jaspreet, what about good debt versus bad debt? Of course, when you're going out and financing your Gucci wardrobe, of course, when you're going out and financing the vacation to Cancun, of course, when you're going out and you're financing the cars, that's bad debt. That's obvious. But what about the good debt? When you're using debt to go out and buy real estate, when you're using the debt to build your business, isn't that good debt? Isn't that okay? Now you're making money from the bank? What you want to understand here is that all debt is bad debt. When you use that debt to go out and finance real estate, it's still bad debt. The reason why I say it's bad debt isn't because you can't make money from it. Sure, you can go out and use debt to go out and invest in real estate. You can use debt to go out and build a business or grow your business. But if you don't know how to manage that debt properly, that good debt is going to turn into bad debt very quickly. That's why I like to say that all debt is bad debt. Now, I'm not saying that you shouldn't go out and use debt to go out and invest in real estate, or you shouldn't use debt to invest in businesses, but you have to understand the risks associated with that. And that game of using debt to invest in real estate or using debt to grow your business is not for everybody. It's not for most people. Only a select few people are willing to put in the work and take the risk and put in the time to actually manage that debt. And the way that I know that is because some of the best real estate deals that I have purchased have come from people using this quote unquote good debt to go out and buy real estate. And then when the good debt turned bad because they don't know how to manage the debt, they don't know how to manage the deal, the banks forced them to sell their property at a huge discount, and then they would go to people like me who come in and buy this property at a big discounted price. So, can debt be used to make money? Sure. But that's a completely different game. I don't care if you do that or not. You got to understand the risks that are associated with that, but you got to treat that debt like bad debt, because if you don't take care of that debt, if you don't manage that debt, it's going to turn around and bite you in the asset. And this is where it is so important for you to understand this game, that if you want to become wealthy, you got to stop listening to what the bank does. You got to stop doing what everybody else does, and you have to start taking a look at your own finances and understand, how can you stop the financial bleeding? Number one, how can you stop having money leave your bank account? And that means you got to stop making your banker richer. And that means you're going to have to start making some financial sacrifices. You might got to sell that car. You might need to live in a smaller apartment. You might need to sell some of that cool stuff. You might need to stop eating out so much. You might need to cancel that Netflix subscription. You might need to cancel that vacation for a little while. Now, the goal isn't to live small forever. The goal is to make these sacrifices so you can build that base, that way you can have a much nicer and a freer life. But you got to be willing to go through the work to do that in the first place. Because once you create that base, now you can start enjoying your money, but you got to start building that base. You got to work to earn more, that we can pay off those debts, because those consumer debts are skinning you alive. And this is where I want you to stop being beholden to the banks. And that starts by you agreeing and understanding that you don't have to be in debt to the bank. But you know what? Let me take it one step further and actually quantify what I mean by giving you an example. This is a piece published in 2023 by Wells Fargo Bank titled "How Untapped Equity Can Sustain the Consumer." And what this article is talking about is that, well, in 2023, we had this growth of the cost of living. We all know that inflation was around, so people weren't able to continue buying the things that they wanted. And because of that, people had to make this tough decision. Should I cut back on my expenses, or should I go into credit card debt? And this is where Wells Fargo found this amazing idea, which is, hey, you don't got to worry about doing that. Home values have gone up. So how about you just pull out this cash out of your home? How about you do a cash out refinance with us, Wells Fargo, and then you can use this cash from your cash out refinance to now go on your vacation to Cancun, or to buy the BMW and to continue living your life. This was published on the Wells Fargo website. And this is where, again, I want to remind you, every single person in this world has an agenda. I don't care who you are, okay? Banks have an agenda, financial advisors have an agenda, random people on YouTube have an agenda, you have an agenda, every single person has an agenda. And what you want to do is understand different people's agendas. And you got to understand now the bank's agenda, because the bank is in the business of lending people money. That's how they make money. Banks make money when you spend money, but actually they make money when you spend money you don't have. Banks are in the business of trying to get you to spend money you don't have. And for the average person, that means spending money you don't have to finance things that don't make you any money. In fact, you're financing things that lose value. So now, when you go out and you finance things like your car, or your clothes, or your vacations with money you don't have, now you're going to end up paying double what that thing costed, because you didn't have the money in the first place, which means now you're going to have to work even longer to pay off that item. And so now, instead of you working for 3 months to buy that vacation, you have to work for 6 months to pay off the vacation, because you didn't have the money in the first place. And this is where now, again, understanding how this system works. The average person is drowning in debt. The average person is a slave to the bank. And this is where you don't want to be that person. Now, this doesn't mean that you need to avoid banks. This means you need to understand how banks work, that we can use the bank to your advantage. Because if you're using the bank to your advantage, now you can use the bank to have your savings accounts, to have your checking accounts, to earn interest on your savings, maybe even to earn some points on your credit card if you know how to use your credit card the right way. But if you don't know how to use the bank, now you're going to be the one that's making the bankers rich and making everybody else who uses the bank the right way rich. And this starts with that financial education of understanding now, what is the bank's goal? What is your goal? What is that basic financial education? And understanding that you don't have to be in debt. And when you understand that, you've got to be willing to put in the financial sacrifices to stop making everybody else rich, stop making your banker rich, and use your money to now pay down this debt, so you never have to be in that financial situation again. Now, for those of you money nerds who are interested in keeping up to date with what's happening in the top finance and business news, my team at Briefs Media has an amazing newsletter called Market Briefs that you can read for free every day, where my team is working to break down what's happening in things like the economy, the housing market, the stock market, crypto, and the global economy. It's a fun, witty, and easy to read email. You can read it in less than 5 minutes every morning, and it's completely free. So if you'd like to join Market Briefs, I got the link to how you can join down in the description below, or you can go to briefs.co/market. A lot of people get into this mindset of thinking if I make money, then you can't make money. Or if you make money, then somebody else can't make money. But there's a lot of money in the world. Now, if you watched any of my videos, you've probably heard me talk about what's going on in the economy in some way, shape, or form. And if you have, you understand that there's a lot of money